The 6.5 is on the road here in San Francisco. We are attending the RSA conference. We are in the Palo Alto Network suite. Daniel, the conference so far has been exactly kind of as you would expected, right? A lot of discussions about what the new threats are, what that means in the age of AI.
It's cybersecurity's biggest week here, and it's a huge moment. I mean, the world is in a complete rebalancing. We know that there's a lot going on. We know that AI has been a multi-year trend, but we're kind of seeing a convergence of forces. And as cybersecurity becomes more and more in the spotlight, as data proliferates, as the needs for global economies and nations to pay attention to how we protect the data, protect their citizens, this week really marks an important moment every year, but it becomes more important every year.
Yeah, it does, Dan. And as we've seen historically, every single major change, and whether it was client server, from mainframe and minis, social, local, mobile, all the way to this new age, there's always the new threat that comes out. And it's not your imagination, everybody out there. It is a much more dangerous place. And whether that is nation states investing in this, whether it's AI, using AI to come in and attack, it's all up for grabs at this point, and enterprises need a stable technologies. They need platforms to be able to do it more simply. And I can't imagine a better person to discuss this than Nikesh. Welcome to the 6.5.
Thank you very much, guys. Great to have you at the Palo Alto, temporary suite.
Well, this by the way, this is the way to do it. I'm a professional event attender, but this is the way to do an event.
Yeah, we hear there's an event going on.
Yes.
I heard the rumor, but this is where you all want to be, is right here. Unfortunately, you're not, but you at least get to be here with us in the moment. Nikesh, big morning. I mean, look, we're here. We wake up. We're getting the feeds blowing up. You're buying companies. You're launching platforms. You're expanding. Just start us off with kind of the big moments of the big week for Palo Alto Networks.
Well, look, as you guys said, we are at yet another technological inflection point. You talked about data, you talk about AI, and when you look at the last 12 months, the total explosion in the amount of investment that is going towards this idea of deploying AI on an enterprise basis has been amazing. Like, it hasn't happened before in terms of scale and scope and size as the amount of dollars being invested. Now, let's assume a lot of these dollars will be successful in the investment, which means you have to try to paint a picture of the future 3 to 5 years from now. What's going to happen, right? In that scenario, you can imagine there are, like, every company has got some element of data, to your point, data being used, AI being used to make better decisions, faster decisions, AI being used to do a whole bunch of repetitive tasks, or even some non-repetitive tasks and innovative tasks. So if you believe that, that means, the deployment of technology is going to continue at a very rapid pace. And the more technology you deploy, the more you got to make sure it's deployed in a protected fashion. In that regard, our reason for existence is that we have to make sure that our customers can go on and do what they need to do while they rely on us to secure them. So we have to get ahead of the curve, anticipate these scenarios, devise the platforms needed to secure the future.
So acquire, protect AI, launch expansion to your platform. I mean, what kind of gets you most excited this morning of the 4 releases you put out?
Yes. Well, look, I think part of what's important is the risk companies have, and I say companies in a broader sense, the risk you have is that you say, wow, I won the last round, and you start to rest on your laurels, and you realize, well, the moment you do that, the world moves on, the next technology wave comes up, and then suddenly you have 4 new competitors to contend with. So in our world, the more we do better, the more paranoid we are. And from that context, I think what I'm most excited about is making sure that, we get this AI thing right. And, we learned from our Prisma Cloud experience. We build a cloud platform. We get done a few things better. This time we're saying we're not taking any prisoners. We're going to do this even better. So, we're maintaining what I call the buy and build strategy. It's not a buy strategy. It's not a build only strategy. It's a buy and build strategy. And if you look at it, this morning we announced the acquisition of Protect.ai. And if you look at the challenges in AI, right? It's not just you talked about a little bit of the bad actors using AI to get in faster, but the challenge of deploying AI is you've got to worry about the data now. You've got to worry about the supply chain risk of AI. You've got to worry about protecting AI in runtime. And for the first time, you've got to watch out what it does, right? Because in the past, you wrote an application, you knew the application was going to behave rationally. Now you have a risk that this AI thing could build a mind of its own and do something. So you got to watch out what it's doing as well. So there's a whole new series of security challenges. And if customers want to deploy this right, you've got to give them something that is simple and stitched end to end. So they don't have to go, bandy together 10 different solutions, stitch it together and hope they get it right. So from that perspective, I'm really excited that we're taking a very, very assertive and aggressive view and strategy on building what we call the AI runtime security platform. So we're announcing Prisma Airs, that platform. I think on the other side, if you go back to the constant innovation and I'd say transformation of cybersecurity, which has been going on there, we're noticing finally our customers are beginning to understand the value of security data. If you look around and you walk around RSA, you'll see there's a whole bunch of companies which have sprung up, which want to tell you how to optimize your data, use it better, make it more real time. But I mean, I'm sure there's going to be debate as to what are the most important words at RSA this year. And I'll tell you, the two are, I'm sure you can hear a lot about AI, whether it's agentic or regular. I think the word, the hidden word is going to be real time, right? Because security has been sort of somewhat non-real time. There's real time. When I know a bad thing, I can stop it.
Sure.
But everything else happens non-real time. The problem is the bad actors are going to get to more and more real time with this deployment of AI. So we've got to get as close to real time as we can. And in that context, I think database is important. And that's why you see some of our other releases which point to the fact that we have to get more real time. We have to leverage the data much faster. We have to stitch things much faster.
So Nikesh, you talked a little bit in generally about where this goes the next 3 to 5 years, and there are certain milestones. There's real time, and there's, for lack of a better term, batch, non-real time. Okay, I know it's not batch, but couldn't come up with a different word. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like
heard that term a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I did talk about mainframes. So
that's right. Yes.
There we go.
I learned how to code in ICL 1904.
There we go. I did COBOL. So there we go.
Yeah.
And punch
I wasn't born yet.
This is supposed to be a progressive, forward-thinking.
Exactly.
Thought, right. Let's make sure
I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. So talked a little bit in general, but how do you get, what is the 3 to 5 year? I don't want to call it a roadmap, but your customers have to be thinking, how do I get there?
Yeah, but I think, look, it's what's fascinating. If you think about cybersecurity as an industry, how old do you think we are?
I mean, I think it goes back to the punch card days of security.
No, not really. See, the cybersecurity wasn't a thing when you were in a closed loop environment with punch cards and mainframes.
Steal
and
those
terminals.
tapes.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of sneaker net, right?
Yeah.
You could do that. But the point is, it's really when we started to see mass connectivity. The moment we started doing apps, and every company is rushing out to build an app that their consumers can access. Right. And the moment that happens, you start to open the doors to your data center, your infrastructure, to effectively every customer of yours. Right. When that begins to happen, the attack surface explodes. So believe it or not, we're about a 20 to 25-year-old industry.
Yeah.
It's one of the youngest industries in technology, barring AI, right? So if you think about it that way, it has to go through stages of, for lack of a better term, we'll say platformization, right? Because today, the solution is there are 40 solutions in a company, and the CIOs and CISOs are busy stitching security solutions together.
That's right.
Which is not their day job. That's kind of like, that needs to be done so they can do their day job. Security is 5%, 8% of spend in technology in a company, and it's going to take twice the effort. That makes no sense. So I think the way we're going to see it is you're going to continue to see, I'd say, people call it consolidation, I call it platformization, because I think there's a deep technical need to connect it. And until we get that deep connectivity, until we get multiple things working together, and the customer says, great, I can deploy 1, 2, 3 platforms and I'm done. I mean, think about it. I mean, how many CRM systems do companies have? More than one?
1.2.
1.2, right? That's not a bad place to be.
Right.
How many HR systems do you have?
Yeah.
Typically, one. But let's not
Generally,
talk
it's
about
several.
ERP.
Generally,
right?
you have
Well, that's going to go away later.
way
We'll
more
talk about that.
applications than you even know.
That's right.
Yeah. It's
so we need to see that happen. The next 3 to 5 years, we need to see the stuff come together. I think that the thing that'll bring them together is data. Because you can't go replace every sensor, every edge, sort of perimeter security point product in a short period of time. Because if you think about it, there's possibly $1 trillion or more of security, I call it planned.
Yeah.
Right? People have spent more than $1 trillion in my security product in the last 10 years. If you're going to say that all that needs to go to an upheaval, it's not going to happen overnight. But can we get it done in 3 to 5 years? Hopefully at twice the effectiveness and half the price? Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation with Nir recently. So he joined the show, and now you've joined the show, and he was really.
Did he say what I'm saying, or am I in line with our
in the same constellation?
Fantastic. That's important.
I'll let you know if you miss by a lot.
All right. Thank you.
But
or your listeners will.
Yeah, well, they will definitely let us know.
All right.
But he was very focused on kind of everything moving out to cloud, out to AI. He very much was kind of like endpoint security. No, I mean, and he has a very enthusiastic founder mentality.
Never had a doubt.
Yes, he really believes. But it was very aligned to what we're seeing, what I'm seeing you're doing in terms of how the platformization.
Yeah.
And in this game,
we must work in the same place.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. In this game, right, it's all about not just what you're doing now, what you announced today, but it's all about setting yourself up that in 12 or 24 months. Yeah. Because let's face it, 2-3 years ago, most people, you may have, but most people didn't see how quickly generative was going to happen. They didn't see agentic coming on. We certainly didn't see $325 billion of CapEx being spent for something that, by the way, we're only consuming a fraction of so far.
Yes.
This all happens. Your job, right, is to figure out how do you stay ahead of this?
Yes.
So very curious, kind of, the platformization, but what is the sort of strategy that you see that's going to enable Palo to not only be the world's largest security player, but to remain relevant and to actually stay ahead and be critical as this trend proliferates?
That's a great question. Look, I think that's a very good question, and I don't think there's a perfect answer. And that's why you see us. Look, we know at a macro level what our customers want. They want better security, they want a better price, they don't want to spend too much time stitching it together, and they want great outcomes. Now, as we go through this journey with our customers, and you saw us pivot about 2 years ago almost now, where we said, listen, guys, let's focus on a longer-term strategy with our customers, which brings this consolidation and platformization together. So now we have our network security platform, I call it, and our sort of, incident response cloud Cortex platform. And what we discovered, that conversation becomes very, very interesting and real very, very quickly with our customers. They want that. Now, to stay nimble, to stay the largest cybersecurity company, our job is to keep our ear to the ground very closely with our customers, because they're actually driving the demand of what needs to happen, what their needs are. At the same time, we have to keep an eye on technology. And at some point in time, we might disagree with our customer's point of view. Like, give me a faster chariot. No, that's not the answer. You're going to have to use the car. So at some point in time, we do get into those debates. But it's a combination of working with your customers, delivering the solutions they want, keeping an eye on technology, and at the same time, having humility. It's a strange word to use in the context of cybersecurity. The reason I say that is that, look what we did this morning. We've been attacking, no pun intended, a certain track towards solving the AI security problem, and we keep our eye on the market. We saw Protect was solving a different part of the same problem, and said, listen, it's going to take us 6 months to be able to replicate what they do, and they'll be further ahead than us. Why don't we bring it together? So I had a wonderful conversation with Ian, who's the CEO of Protect, and he's a smart guy. He got it. He's like, yeah, I get it. I said, you want to play in the big league?
Yeah.
The way to play in the big league and solve this problem for all of our customers is to put it together. And lo and behold, fruitful discussions, and we followed our playbook in terms of how we do these things. We sit down together, have a joint vision as to what needs to happen, put some product people together, know what they're doing, see how this is going to come together, and here we are. Now, it doesn't mean this is the end of the journey, because I still think there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be figured out. How do you secure agents? Well, as soon as I see one, I'll let you know.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of challenges that go into that. Primarily, there are themes that are in all of tech, and one of them is this best of breed point solution, and then there's platforms, there's suites, there's end-to-end. I think you answered it without specifically answering this question, but I think what I heard was that the way you balance this between where you would put R&D is a you listen to your customers.
Yes.
Sometimes customers don't know exactly what they want as a product, but you understand their outcomes, and then you build to the outcomes. Are there any other things that go through this, quote unquote, best of breed versus platform that you have to make?
I think the biggest change we're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years is the shrinkage of best of breed. And I say shrinkage because I'm not saying elimination.
Right.
Because there's a lot of best of breed out there that might have made sense 3, 4, 5 years ago. I think it's commoditized. I think it's normalized. I think it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Is my EDR better than yours? There's 4 or 5 of them are. They're pretty good.
Right.
So the question is, do I really need to go specialize and take one and then spend my life stitching it together?
Yes.
Or do I take one as part of an integrated platform? So I think you will see as, best of breed makes sense in the first 24 to 48 month cycle. Does that best of breed eventually lead to a platform? If it does, great. If it doesn't, it's time to go be part of a platform. So you see that kind of begin to happen. I think, the industry is still operating in the best of breed mode. So you see tons of companies getting funded. I think a lot of them will not see a positive outcome, or not think that's not a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Sort of situation. So I think you're going to see that shrinkage happen because you're going to see a lot more platforms evolve. I think that's the long game. That's the long game because customers cannot feasibly put this stuff together. I think, as I said earlier, the key sort of eureka moment is data, right? Can you collect that data, analyze it? And I think one of the things we announced is we have what I call Cortex XI for incident response, which we saw phenomenal success in.
Yeah.
It has been, way past my expectations, Nair's or the company's expectations, and we're just turning on what we call Cortex for peacetime. Because we discovered when we collect so many terabytes of data for our customers, I get all the data for peacetime too.
Yes.
While I only focused on incident response and wartime.
Right.
So I think that's sort of giving us this idea that we can actually consolidate a whole bunch of best of breed capabilities into the peacetime capabilities of our platform.
Yeah, your future, I don't think, is so much point players. I mean, look, there's always disruptors, startups. Some of them become your protect.ai's and you acquire them, which is great. That's a great it's a great place for innovation to be developed in those small, nimble, fast.
Oh, by the way, we love the venture industry funding innovation across the board. So all ideas are explored.
Yeah.
We don't have the resources to do that ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side of it, of course, the big cloud players.
Yes.
If I'm trying to envision where competition actually comes from, because you've been so successful, you've grown so quickly, you've become such a dominant player in the space, it seems, and if Near was correct about it all really being in the cloud and everything happening, the multi-cloud, is that it's the Googles, and they're your partners too, but is that where competition comes from in the future? Is it going to be that the platform, because security kind of is always set off in this little island, but increasingly, it's data, it's security, it's AI, it's application. It really all comes together. So where does
That's a great question, Dan. Look, I think it's a phenomenal question. First of all, they're the 800-pound gorilla. So it's a joke. Look, where does the 800-pound gorilla sit? Wherever it wants. So I can't say that they're not going to be in security. Now, what we're relying on a few factors. First, remember, we're still about 8% of the product business in security. So we're still used to losing 90% of the time. So we're okay. When I can get from 8 to 30, I'll be feeling very happy. So this is a good start.
humility.
The trend is our friend. Okay, let's stick there. I think the second important part is, I worked at one of these companies, and invariably, as good as you try to be, if you have your own thing, your products always work better with your thing. Right, that's the beauty of Palo Alto. We don't have our Palo Alto cloud, right? We're effectively Switzerland for sort of biases, right? We have no biases. We will try and make it work perfectly well on every cloud instance out there, every data center out there, because we don't deliver those capabilities. So from that perspective, whilst we may be the consolidator and not the dominant is a bad word, but the most loved large security company, I think outside of that, for us, what's important is we need to maintain that independence, that unbiased nature that we can deliver across all these platforms in a consistent way. That's kind of what we believe allows us to go out there and convince customers that they don't want to get beholden to one stack, because it is a multi-cloud world. So should I buy security for every cloud and then spend my time stitching that now instead of the best of breed I used to buy in the past? And the last thing I'll say is that when you have a 90% or 95% of business, which is called AI and cloud, and 5% business security, how much time are you spending on the 5%? Hopefully less than 5%.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
That's all we do. Every morning we wake up, we don't worry about Are you going to use, large database? Or are you going to use my LLM? All I spend our time is saying, how do you secure it when you use it?
Yeah. So Nikesh, final question.
Yes, sir.
Again, thank you for this time. Talked to a lot of CEOs, and I mean, you just have to turn on TV, CNBC.
Yes.
This economic uncertainty. I'm
Yes.
curious how you're balancing your investments versus the uncertainty.
That's a great question. Look, I think part of you're seeing a dichotomy. And you kind of just illustrated that by saying there's $350 billion plus of investment going on in AI. That doesn't seem to be impacted by any economic uncertainty. In fact, it's an arms race to try and get it done quickly so we can deploy it. So I think on one hand, you're saying the technology train is running at warp speed and you got to get ahead of it, try and make it happen. On the other side, there's a little bit of uncertainty, I would say right now, because of the whole tariff conversations. But guys, we powered through a pandemic. I mean, you and I were sitting here at the beginning of the pandemic, we'd be worrying about the same things and look back and say, oh my God, that was one of the best opportunities. Had I known what was going to happen, I'd have put my money in the right places. So I think we're at the same point. Will we get through it? Of course we'll get through it. And at some point in time, you'll get used to it. Whether the answer is 10%, the answer is 5% or 25%, I don't know. And I try not worry about things I can't control. So from that perspective, I think we're all getting used to the notion that this will find some new level of stability. Yeah. And when that new level of stability will be found, we'll be all worrying about something else. Until then, it's fun to worry about this, but can't control it. Don't worry about it. Focus on your business, and it'll power through on the other side.
Sage words.
What do we go on TV and talk about if there's no chaos? It's funny. Someone showed me a chart the other day, and it was basically always a reason not to invest. And it just shows a chart just up and to the right, that there's always a reason at every different point. It's the S&P just running up and to the right, up and to the right.
It's the other half of the glass.
Nikesh, thank you so much for joining us here on the 6-5. It's been great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode. We appreciate you so much. Hit subscribe. Be part of our 6-5 community. So many great conversations here. But for this show, for Patrick Moorhead and myself, it's time to say goodbye. We'll see you all later.